Today on the Railway Room, I'm going to be kit bashing a Peco narrow gauge engine shed kit. Hello friends, and welcome back to the Railway Room. So yes, today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be building up a building using the Peco engine shed kit, this one. I'm going to be kit bashing it to make a slightly different version. But I'm after a more temporary structure using the corrugated pieces rather than the more permanent slate or brick built engine shed. So this kit's a relatively recent release, and it's based on the one of the sheds at Boston Lodge on the Ffestiniog Railway. But it's a kit that really lends itself towards kit bashing and making different variations. So as it comes, you can build it with or without the chimneys. You can build it with the doors either way around. You can have doors at one end or at both ends. What I'm actually going to be doing is going to be building a slightly shorter version of it, so it's going to be about 2/3 the length, and I'm going to be leaving out the chimneys. So yeah, I don't think that's probably enough preamble. Let's just crack on, open up the kit and see what we get inside there. So here's the kit as it arrives. It's a Peco Lineside laser cut kit LK-220, corrugated iron engine shed based on Boston Lodge on the Ffestiniog. It comes in this recycled and apparently recyclable plastic sheeting. The nice thing about this is that if you get a piece that's not too scratched or anything, you could potentially use that for glazing, maybe in a building that's near the rear of the layout. And let's open it up and see what comes in the kit. So we've got a sheet of instructions. So it's fairly straightforward. And the kit comes on these series of really thin laser cut ply sheets. So we can see here we've got some ends and sides. So there's 2 of those and there's 2 of those. Right, now I'm not going to be building this exactly according to the instructions for a couple of reasons. One is I wanted to make it a bit more of a temporary structure, and also this is quite a long building. If you see the length of it there, if you compare to the locos, we easily got space for 2 locos, but I'm actually wanting this to be just a single loco engine shed. So having studied the instructions, I hope, quite closely, I've decided I'm going to attempt to build this at 2/3 of the length. And it should lend itself to that quite easily because we've got these support pieces in the middle. So there's it splits into thirds quite nicely, so just cutting it out at the 2/3 mark it should be fairly straightforward, I hope. So let's have a crack. The nice things are these, we've got obviously the Peco and copyright at the top, but all the parts are numbered. So you just need to make sure that you've got it the right way up, otherwise you might get confused between this. Is that a 6 or is it a 9? It is that way up, it is a 9. That confused me the first time. So I'm going to look for parts 1 and 2 and 3. So parts 2 and 3 on this one, and we've got 2 each of those, and then parts 1 are the inner walls down the sides. I'm going to cut all of those out first. I'm trying to remember exactly which piece is which. And then part number 1 is this big side piece, and you can see that it's mostly cut away already, so it's really just in the corners where we need to be cutting. And yep, they come away very, very nicely. Okay, so these are going to be the inner walls. So the texture is going to be facing in like that, with the inner strip along the bottom, and that's going to go on the top. But before I go any further, I'm going to need to cut this to my new desired length. You can see the panels here, so I'm just going to cut straight. Well, no going back now. Now I was thinking about maybe cutting out this centre section so that I've got the pieces with the strapping on both ends. However, I can see that if I do that, I'm then going to get these pieces at the bottom are going to be out of place. The top's going to be relatively close, but the bottom's going to be way out. So I'm potentially going to get an issue with missing these notches off the end of this piece. I will figure that out when I get there. And again, I just need to try and remember that these are going to be the inside, so they're going to be the opposite way around, so I need to make sure I'm cutting the correct end away. Oh, this feels very foolhardy. So the top piece, we've got these little inner notches, so they're going to be on the inside for the cross beams. So I can see that I need to cut down at the rear of that piece there. So I'm just going to match what this end is, so cut straight. And then for the bottom piece, I'll match the length. Okay, so we can see how that's going now, and that's going to be a lovely size length for this engine. That's good. Okay, so I've got my two inner walls sorted now, and one thing I will quickly note is we've got these little cutaway notches on the ends of the floor pieces. There's not one in the middle because I've cut that away, so I'm just going to very quickly, pretty much by eye, although I'm going to use this piece as a template. Just to cut away the notch. Okay, so I'm just going to be using some pretty standard PVA to put this together. So I'm just going to use a little bit of a cocktail stick just to shun the glue and then I'll just quickly do the other one. So while my inner walls are drying, I can prepare the next end pieces. So that's going to be the inner walls from the ends. So we've got piece number 5, which is the inner wall for the end without a door, and piece number 4, which is the front end with the main doorways. So I'll just quickly cut those out. Okay, so here's my 2 ends. Because the way I'm kind of kit bashing this away, I've only got the diagonal supports on one end rather than both ends that it should have, so I want to make sure I've got this diagonal at the front, because the one at the back you're not really going to see it too much anyway. So this is then going to drop in here. And a nice thing is that there's 2 of these pieces, so if you want you can build it with door entrances on both ends to have it as a through shed, which is quite a nice touch. Now the only thing is, because of where I've cut these end pieces, I haven't got the locating notches for these, so it's going to make it a little bit weaker maybe. But I don't think it's going to be a massive problem. So one of the things that can be quite challenging with kits like this is making sure that you get the pieces nice and square, because it'd be quite easy to build it with just a bit of an angle and you've got your whole shed cockeyed, which might be the look you're going for, but it probably isn't. So if you've got some kind of a set square or a right angle, that'll be very helpful in making sure these are nice and square. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue with from the cocktail sticks. Okay, so you can see there as I've put this one on, it's made the whole thing cockeyed, so this is where you really use a set square if you've got one. But the nice thing about using PVA is it's got a good long setting time, so you can adjust it very easily. And once we put the rear piece on, that should hold it nice. But of course, by shortening it and losing the tabs on this end, I'm making life slightly trickier for myself to get it square. So you can see that it is possible to make it quite unsquare if you're not careful. So if you have got a set square, that would be a very useful tool. If not, just nicely eyeballing it, you should get there. So next up is going to be the support beam across the centre of the shed, which is part number 6. There's 2 of these, but because I'm doing the shortened version I only need 1 of them. So, and there's little notches in the middle of the shed that's just going to drop into, hopefully. So just a bit of glue. There we go, just like that. Okay, so next up is going to be the outer walls, which are appropriate enough. That's part number 7. So I'm going to cut these free. And now obviously I am going to have to cut this down to size. So the tricky thing is working out exactly how it's going to fit against the inner walls where there's going to be overlap, to make sure I cut it at exactly the right length and it's not a little bit too short. Okay, so I think the easiest way to work out exactly what size this is going to be is to use the inner roof as a reference, because that's got the sections already marked on for attaching to the roof supports. So I'm going to cut this one free. It's number 10, so we don't need it yet. And so I can see that I'm effectively making these holes into these ones. So I need to cut along this end there. But now I can use that piece to work out exactly what length I'm going to cut this side piece to. And if in doubt, just cut it a little bit longer than it needs to be. It is a very good now hopefully bingo bango, just the right size for the sides, and make sure that this one is also exactly lining up. And so it says to make sure that they are fully pushed up against the bottom of the eaves, and there should be a bit of a gap at the bottom. And the ends should be flush with the inner face of the inner walls, which they are. That's good. I've cut it the right length. Happy days. Now I might as well just glue on this piece. And then just going to push it in. And you can see even now it's still a little bit fragile. There's a little bit of wobble in it, so we need to make sure that we keep it nice and square. And then I'll just quickly do the same thing with the other side. Once again, push it right up against the eaves and make sure it's nice and flush at both ends, nice and straight. And allow it to dry. And it's starting to look like a shed now. And so the next thing to do is the outer walls on both ends. So that's 8 and 9, or 8A. And now if you're, depending how you're building it, depends on which piece you want to use. So you've got the piece with the pedestrian door on the left, or this one with it on the right. So it depends which way around you're building it. I've got the door on the whatever side this is, the left, so I'm going to be using the normal 8. If it was on the other side, then you could use the 8A, which is that's really nice. But also if you're using the doorways at both ends, then you'd use the 2 of those and not use the 9 at all. So I am going to be using number 8 and number 9, so I'll just quickly cut those free. Fairly self-explanatory where these go. But again, you can have that bit of a gap at the bottom, and that's designed. There does seem to be a slight bit missing here on the instructions. In the picture, it tells you to put piece number 10 with the texture facing inwards, but it doesn't actually mention it in the text. So presumably being part number 10, we're going to put it in after the outers. So that's what I will do, is I will glue up and put the 8 and 9 on first, and then do the inner walls number 10. So because the inner piece has got the smallest amount of surface area, I'm going to apply the glue to this side. And so I'm thinking my aim here is to line up the bottom of the eaves on both sides, and then hopefully that should make the bottom of the walls level. And the rear should be much more straightforward. and again I'm just going to try and line up the bottom of the eaves. So one thing that I have noticed is that because this plywood is very thin, where it's been engraved on one side, it then does have a bit of a propensity to curl if you're not careful. So you can see here it's glued nicely on this side, and this side is just really way up from where it should be. So I'm going to have to put some extra glue in there and to hold it tight in position. Okay, so I've cut out my second piece of the inner roof, part number 10, and I've trimmed it down to the correct length. So these are going to drop in just snugly inside there, and on both sides. However, before I glue these into place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the length of these as a guide to trim the outside of the roof to size. So this is piece number 11. I'm just going to quickly cut out, and so that's going to give me the length. And as ever with this, if in doubt, it's always best to cut it a little bit longer than you're perhaps thinking, because it's always easy to trim a bit more off if you need to, but if you cut it too short, it's very difficult to add the piece back that you've cut away. So that's going to go on the inside, and hopefully that should slot between the end pieces as just the right length. So I'll just quickly cut the second one of these pieces to length, and again that's just a good size, but we can see already what I'm saying about where got the engraved on this side. It's already starting to curl in towards the engraving because there's just so much of the detail on there. So once I glue this into place, I'm going to have to sand and hold it for quite a while until the glue dries. But the next piece I want to cut out is going to be the centre of the roof, whatever we're calling that, the roof ridge. Okay, so the roof ridge, we've got two pieces. There's number 12 or 12A. So the number 12 is the one you're going to use if you're going to put the vents up in the roof, and 12A is if you're building it without the vents. I actually want a version without the vents, so I'm going to build using number 12A. So I'm just going to quickly cut that out. So that's going to drop in the middle, and again I'm going to have to cut it to size, but the nice thing is because you've got these little notches here, that tells me exactly where I'm going to cut. So I've got effectively a little notch on the end, so I'm just going to go straight down this side here. Hopefully nice and straight. Good, so that fits. So now I'm ready to start gluing the roof into position. And so the inner roof, the texture goes on the inside. And it just clips nicely into position. And again, because this curves with the engraved detail, I'm going to have to sand and hold this for a while, I think. Okay, so my inner roof is nicely glued in. So next I'm going to get the 12A piece, the top of the roof, and just put a little bit of glue on here. In fact, it's probably going to be easier to put the glue on the piece itself, I reckon. And I'll maybe just run a little bit along in between the two pieces of the inner roof. And so there's three little notches. They go in the bottom, so they're going to line up hopefully with the roof supports, and that should just drop in nicely like that. And then all that remains for the roof is these pieces number 11, I believe it is, which are just going to glue in. Get it. And so yeah, again I'm going to have to hold this in place whilst the glue dries. So the normal scheme of things, the next thing is going to be to add the roof vents. Because I'm building a version of the shed without the roof vents, I'm going to skip ahead, and the next thing is going to be the barge boards at either end. So that's part number 16. You can see it's pretty straightforward. Just going to cut these out, so there's one for each end. And I don't think it matters which way around it goes. It's just going to go straight on there. Pop that in place. Make sure it's nice and square on both ends. And so I'll just leave that to dry, and then I'll glue the one on the other end exactly the same. Okay, so we're pretty close to being there now. There's just a couple of bits on the front left. So there's these pieces here. We've got two of piece 18, and that's going to be the step underneath the door. And then there's the two main doors as well, 19, 20 and 21. So I'll just cut these out. Okay, so these two pieces here are going to be the, well, doorstep for lack of a better phrase. So we just put a bit of glue on. And glue those together to make them into double thickness. And then there's a little hole just underneath the bottom of the pedestrian access door, and they just glue in there. Okay, and so I can just allow that to dry now. And we will note that they are designed to go specific ways around. So you've got hinges on the outside, and then the diagonals should go so that the lower side is on the hinge side. So exactly the way around that they are on the fret, which is very good. Sort of like that. Just going to put the glue onto this piece. I think what I might do is just pause at this point, because I think it's probably going to be slightly easier to do the painting of this without the doors attached, because there might be issues with damaging them, or they're going to be in the way a bit. So what I'll do is I'm going to paint it up, and then I will glue the doors in last. So the first thing that I will do is I'll just take this outside and give it a quick spray over in a basic grey primer. I might do 2 quick coats, just because with being a grey primer, I think I wanted the corrugate to be in a grey as well. So that will probably just then be the basic grey for the bulk of the building. So I'll come back in a minute once that's sprayed over. Okay, so it's back from the priming now, and I've done a couple of coats of this grey primer, because that's actually going to be the finished, the base grey. I was just going to do some washes over it to add some detail and texture. but what I do want to do is pick out some of the details like the barge ends and the doorways, and so the colour that I'm going to be using for that is going to be the Umbral number 20. So I'm after a kind of a quite dark, almost kind of an Indian red. Obviously I'm not modelling Boston Lodge, it's a freelance one, so I want a darker red for mine. So I'll just get a little bit of masking tape in, just to prevent any overspill. And so again around the doorway and the door frame. And then just the frame around the main doors. So once this end's dried, I'll just quickly mask off and paint up the barge boards on the other end as well. And similarly, once these doors, both sides, have dried, I might do a second coat, but also go around and do the edges of those. I'll pause the film in there and then I'll come back once that's done. Okay, so I've got all my red bits painted through now, and one extra little thing that I did do was pop inside and just quickly paint up the rafters in the roof there. Really don't need to bother doing that because, let's face it, unless your viewing angle when it's on the layout is below track level, so you're never going to be able to see up in there. The only time anyone's going to ever notice that is if they lift the building off the layout. It's also quite a tricky thing to do to get in there once it's put together, so I would say if you were planning on having these painted, I would recommend painting them before you glue them into place. So what I want to do next is just add a little bit of weather and a bit of texture to it. So I'm just going to come in with the basic black wash and just sweep across. And so you can see there the black's gone nicely into the folds of the corrugator and just made it stand out a bit more. So pretty happy with that. And I'll just carry on over the other sides and the roof. And I'll just quickly do the same for the doors. Okay, so now I've just got this Tamiya X19 smoke. Quite runny. I'm just going to find roughly in the middle of this. And then try and smudge away from the edges. And because this is very, very ready, I'm just going to get a little of my standard matte black and bob some of that right into the middle. And I'm just going to let it dry for a little bit, but not too long. Just a final bit of a wash over the step, which I've missed. Okay, so I'm fairly happy with that. Now one thing that I did do as well was have a very brief black wash on the inside walls, just to try and get a little bit of the detail out of the texture on the inside. So I think I'm pretty much ready to fix the doors. Hopefully it is possible to have the doors closed or open. I'm not really sure how many people are going to take the closed option. So there are 3 hinges on the side of the door, and one of the hinges is very close to the edge of the door, and at the other end this one's quite a way off. So the one right at the edge should be on the top, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on each of the locating spots just to pop it in to place, and again making sure that the hinge close to the edge is at the top. It's then a matter of just nestling that into position. So, and exactly the same with the other door. So once these have dried, then that will be it. Shed complete. So there's the finished shed. Hopefully you'll agree it looks quite nice. It's exactly what I was hoping for, what I was aiming for. So that's what it looks like in isolation. Let's just have a little quick look and see what it looks like in situ on a layout as well. And you can see that down on the layout there, just popped into position, bit of a work in progress. But you can see it does look the part, so I am very pleased. So that's the engine shed. I'm really pleased with this. I think it's a really nice kit. It went together, no problems really. And there's a good range of customization that you can make with the kit the way that it's built as well, which I think is really good. It means that not all builds of this are going to look exactly the same on everyone's layout, which is a definite plus. And it sells for a pretty reasonable price as well. So definitely one to consider if you're looking for an engine shed for your layout. I'm really pleased with this. So that's all for this time. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you did, you know, the usual comment, like, subscribe and all of that jazz. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. Thank you. Goodbye.